Okay, I'm back. Your Caseware guru is here to save the day. Okay, so let's think of a situation where you have a mapping number. I'm not going to actually use Caseware for this because it would just take too damn long to actually do. So I'm just going to share some code with you. Okay, you can create a table, and what you can do with that table is you could put all your assets, say, on the balance sheet. You know, have a series of assets that are laid out. You know, cash, investments, receivables, you know, prepaid expenses, other assets, etc., etc., etc. You only need to design, you only need to code that table once. Okay? And what you would do in this case, and I'm going to put this down, is you use this coding. It's assuming that you have, let's say I want to group cash, right? Now the first thing I would do is I would have, in our case for not-for-profits, we have the first column, we have the description of the asset. Second column is the unrestricted column. The third column is the temporarily restricted column. The fourth column is the permanently restricted column. The fifth column is the total of the three. So total for the year. You can have, you know, $100,000 of cash, 50 of which is restricted. 50,000 should be in the second column, not the description column. And then the restricted amount, which I'll declare as temporarily restricted, in the third column. Nothing in the fourth column. And the fifth column, you would have your total for the year. Then you might have a total for the prior year if you're doing 2 years, or with summarized financial information. And then the column after that, you have a useful tool for you to use, and that is a column to place your map number, which won't print out when you print the financial statements, but is there so people will know where the number is coming from when they look at the page. That column will be skipped, and also the presence of the mapping number being in that cell will allow you to actually not have to type in the map number in each one of those columns, nor for any of the columns that follow would you have to, if you copy the row, you wouldn't have to change it from, say, A to B every single time. You just have to put the B in that one column on the right, and it makes a quick and easy way to set this up. And I credit Todd Yulfson for showing us that when he came out to help us set our things up. So this is what the code is right now. It is map. You're using the mapping database. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an expert, an absolute expert at Caseware. I wouldn't. I know a few things, so I'm just going to pass those things that I know on. If you know better, comment and give me some better tips, because I can use them. Okay, so with the current parlance they have is BA, which means the adjusted balance. Now, what adjusted balance is after adjusting journal entry, the balance after adjusting journal entries are made. I would say most everybody that's making a set of financial statements is going to want to use that. It used to be the blanket assumption before in the old code, but in the new code they actually let you, if you wanted to, present the financials before the adjustments that you made, which may be useful. But it's an awful lot of work to do. Now, and I'll show you how to make this BA actually a variable in a second. So I'm looking at my cheat sheet, but I think I remember this. Okay, and then what year are we talking about? In this case, year 0 is the year you're working in. Year 1 is the first prior year. They don't have a setting for future years because, of course, those numbers don't exist yet. And year 1 would be year 2 would be not if 2010 is the current year. Year 1 is 2009. Year 2 is 2008, and so on. And I've got the year 0. And if my accounts were in such a format, let's say I had a whole group of accounts that had 50-100, 50-9999, etc., and another set that was 25-1000. And 25-9999, you can filter by the 25 pattern there, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. This is something I figured out. Filts equals AM. This part, the AMDIV, I learned from Todd Yolson as well. AMDIV. In Caseware, now let me give you an important point. In Caseware, a 2-digit number at the beginning of the account number is always a division, and a 3-digit number on the right-hand side after a dot is a subdivision. You could also sort by subdivision. And in this case, you would have AM sub and not AMDIV if you wanted to sort by, let's say, like that. You can sort it so only the .000 show up. In that case, the balances for these account numbers that I've just highlighted here will show up. If you sort it by division, then these two would show up and these two would not show up. Get it? Got it? Good. Okay. And then after the div, you put a filts. I already did the filts. AMDIV equals, in this case, 50. And these have to be enclosed in quotes, like that. And that takes the, okay, and then let's say my and what this cell that I happen to be filling in 4 columns over is actually the map number for the account that I want to group, so you can copy that row down and only put, say, B on the next column all the way on the right, and all 4 or 5 columns will automatically fill in with B based on what I'm going to do here. That's called the relative column command. And we'll just pretend it was 2 columns away in this case. And if you use I don't know why I have quotes there, but no, that doesn't do much. I think that should be it. Now this RC2, notice that these parentheses are complete, and this plus that is a complete set of parentheses. Also make sure I have a complete set of quotes. Okay, let's get into something a little more tricky. In the situation where I had various, what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to go to the top of the financial statements I was working on and pick one of the 6 or 7 divisions we're working with a particular client. And that means that if I'm going to use the same template, that means that 50 actually has to be a variable. Dun, dun, dun. So what are we going to do to accomplish that? Well, first of all, we have to have a different cell that will act as the cell that generates is able to generate a division number that you actually want to filter by. Okay, and so it'll be something like one of those little radio buttons you'll click on. You'll have a choice. What do you want to, and you can just scroll down and pick the division you want to use. And so in this case, it would be either division 25 or 50, and assuming that cell number is well, the one I happen to use was E100, then what you would do over here is you would go that's the way it works. Sometimes it's hard when you're using Caseware Caseview to be able to actually figure out. You would think you can just put the E100 there after division, but it won't work. It'll say there's an error. You have to actually put a quote so it'll actually accept the value that you wanted to use, and then you have to put another quote so it accepts an absolute value of the cell that you have in there. And what you're saying is I'm not exactly sure, but I know it works. Basically, it calls up E100. So whenever whoever the user is that happens to pick a different division, that variable is set in cell E100, and it will fill in the 05, the 50 or the 25 in this case, in place of everything that's in this shaded area. Okay, and then what other things did I find that were useful amongst my notes here? That was a big find for me. Once I had that, I knew I was able to do it. Before that, I just struggled just trying to figure out just what exactly I was going to have to do. There are certain other things you can call up, and they're called CLP codes. I don't think I really should get into that. Now, here's one thing of my one of my codes. I notice that you have a 28 there. There happens to be, for whatever reason in Caseware, if your cell happens to have a C in front of it, you don't have to put a C in front of the 28. You know, if I have a cell number C28, you don't have to put a C there for whatever reason. That up pipe before cross worksheet means or. So what I'm saying here is, go ahead and look at the I want you to refer to the worksheet that's set by the variable E100. Right, I had different choices, and each one of these configuration files is a template with an identifier. Remember, I set that identifier as CF, so you would choose either CF, CG, or whatever other identifiers I have for different configuration files. It'll pull that up based on a choice and insert it in between the quotes. It's only going to pick up the quote, the plus, the E100, the plus, and the in quote, but not the quotes outside of it, because it needs that in the cross worksheet reference, and it's going to look at cell number C28 on that particular configuration file. And if C28 equals 1, then it means, or if C28 is null, it'll hide the column on that worksheet. So I did a lot of different things like that, and that seemed to help things out. One real big pain in the ass is the cash flow or the cash flow statement, because sometimes you have to, when you're dealing with code like, BA filter 0 AM 06 relative column blah 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 plus map, and sometimes you have to, when it comes to accounts receivable or accounts payable, you have to actually subtract the prior year instead of adding, comparison between the prior year and the first year. And if you have situations where, see, I got that dot question there, I have a relative column and I have in quotes dot question. I'm saying that look for any map that's listed 2 columns over. If it's say G, look for anything that has a G point anything, G.1, G.2, G.3, G.4, and add that to the total. It's going to come out in this column from this year, and add the ones without the, because sometimes we have, for temporarily restricted, we map it to G.1. For permanently restricted, we map it to G.2. For unrestricted, we just stick it to G. And so I want to pick up all of those for the cash flow statement. I don't want to have just part of my cash or my fixed assets to be added up in part of the total. Not cash as in reconciling cash, but fixed assets or any other asset or liability besides cash or equity there. And then there's your, so this is part from, this is one line from the cash flow statement that may have actually changed. And you could also use a star. But I've noticed that in some of these the star doesn't really work inside the quotes, and so that's the kind of code you're basically dealing with. And so it comes down to having the structure set up, the mathematics set up based upon a set of assumptions your firm's going to decide for itself to use. Okay, I'll stop because I don't want to go over.